congratulations on such a magnificent film. I had the pleasure of sitting down and watching The Flood last night, and it absolutely blew me away.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, we've got a few, screenings around the place happening at the moment, and getting a lot of people sending us messages saying, just how blown away and, amazed. And it is an epic film, It's bloody epic.
Yeah.
So I'm just so glad that other people think so too.
Yeah, definitely. So where did the idea first come about for you? Because this is...
Hang on, are we actually doing this now, or are we just chit-chatting? Just so...
Oh, no, we're actually doing it now, yeah, yep.
Oh, bloody hell. Here's me saying how epic my film is. Oh, well, you've got to love your own art, don't you? So
definitely.
What's the point, I guess? Anyway, sorry, what were you asking?
I was going to ask, where did the idea first come about for you? Because this is a period of history that not a lot of people talk about, and I was very lucky that I had a history teacher that was very honest with us at high school and did talk about this period of time. But where did the idea first come about for you, and when did you first hear about these stories from that period of time?
Well, I've always had this sort of strange affinity with that sort of World War II post-war era. It's just always appealed to me, and I think it's the heroicism of the lions who just threw themselves fearfully but fearlessly into this enormous experience that is unfathomable, and the bravery of that has always fascinated me. And simultaneous to that, I've an enormous love and respect for the wisdom and the culture and the nature of the people, of the First Nations people of this country, and all First Nations people, around the world, but particularly here in Australia, where we just have such riches, and we don't see it or appreciate it or understand the wealth that we have culturally here. And watching films that involve First Nations people made in Australia, I was never really seeing the majesty and the heroicism of the people on screen. It was they just weren't being framed in that way, and so I really wanted to do something that was about our combined history, but that really elevates First Nations people to that pinnacle, socially, culturally, spiritually, that is where they're really at. And combining that with what we do, I just started researching stories around that time, and this kind of evolved.
Yeah.
And also telling the story through a woman too, which is very different. A woman of colour who's married to a First Nations man, and so it's this sort of melting pot of people, which is what Australia is. That's the beauty of this country. We're so diverse in what we have, and this is a chance to experience and play with that on screen.
Definitely. And were you able to do much research by working with the First Nations people too when you were developing the script for this film?
Look, it's interesting because Aaron Jeffrey's here at the moment because we were all doing a Q&A and the composer Petra Saljo last night, and we were just talking about it this morning because we get a lot of questions about the consultation that we undertook. And we were talking about how the question seems such a moot point to us because this is a collaborative, made-together film. It wasn't a case of consultation. It's like we made this together in the crucible of the set when all the First Nations people were there. We were doing ceremony and every day. And the whole film is infused and filled with that collaboration. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of working together as opposed to, just consulting.
Definitely. And you've put together an amazing cast, including Aaron, who you just mentioned. Tell us a little bit about that cast. How did that cast come together? And did you have any of these actors and actresses in mind when you actually first sat down to work on the script?
I did. I made a short film with producer Ami Marquez Perez, who made The Flood with me.
Yeah.
And it's called Mirror. And Alexis Lane was had a very small part in that film, but she just blew us away in the audition for that film. Literally, Ami and I were both in tears in the audition, and just wished that the part could have been bigger for her in that film. And I just wanted to write something that she could star in. So this is the result of that. It was always for her, and thank goodness she wanted to do it, because it's a huge role and a confronting role, and her performance it's truly exquisite and dynamic and explosive and powerful, and it was just everything you could possibly hope for. So we were just so blessed to be able to make it together. And Shaka Cook, who plays Waru, her husband in the film, I troll around the internet quite a bit, just looking at, actors and their interviews, and just for, uncovering people. And Shaka was doing this interview with the Paddy Power Foundation, talking about how their support has enabled him to go to NIDA, and he was so humble and grateful, and just his spirit was so beautiful in that interview, and it was just all the qualities that we needed for Waru. And so he was always the one for that for me. Fortunately, he too was totally into playing that role. And I'll finally mention Dean Kerwood, who also made Mirror with me, and I just love Dean, and he also is incredible in the film, just the most horrendous bad guy, and then going through these incredible transformative, redemptive processes in the most unexpected ways, and he just carried that beautifully. So yeah.
Definitely. How did you get that bad guy out of him? Like, I've seen interviews with him and he seems such a nice guy. What's that like, working with an actor when they are such a lovely person, but when they go on screen, they play such a vicious character so well?
Yeah, well, it's true. He is the most adorable person. And I think we're all everything. We all have the capability to allow ourselves to feel or express anything. And quite often it's those who are extremely lovely. The flip side of that is being able to embrace that equal kind of opposite, if you like. And we worked a lot on set. So, prior to shooting each scene, Dean and I would sort of talk about it, break down, really get him in the mindset and the heart set of where his character was in that moment. And from there, he would just go in and pull it off. And it's a very, very brave performance. But all the bad guys are very brave in their performances.
Yeah. You mentioned your short film before, Miro. That was so well received. Were you nervous or excited about heading into a feature film project after your short film was so well received?
Are you saying that the pressure to make something equally as good? Is that what you're asking? Or just the enormity of the feature compared to a short? Or
yeah, the enormity of the feature. I know a lot of filmmakers that have gone to take that next step, and they've just been so nervous that they've kept on putting off jumping to a feature. So yeah, how did you feel about making that move to a feature film?
Completely confident and completely terrified.
Yep.
Confident because we just had such a great team.
Yeah.
I mean, you make films are a collaborative art, and when you have great artists together, you can't stuff it up, really. And yes, of course, terrified at times with the enormity of it, just thinking, we are really going to do this. And, we've got horses and children and remote locations and 200 gunshots and, it's pretty full on. So I think that the approach was just not to think about it, just focus on the immediate task at hand and not think about everything that was going to go on for those several weeks.
Yeah. You also got to film in your hometown in Kangaroo Valley. Tell us a little bit about what it was like filming in your hometown, and also could you tell us a little bit about how Kangaroo Valley is going now? Because I know it was one of the places that was devastated during the bushfires as well.
Yeah, well, this film would not have been made without the Kangaroo Valley community. And, you know, it's a community who will notoriously step up for worthy causes and get involved in the arts, and they're incredibly supportive. So our sets were built by, you know, the old boys at the local tennis club, and they're the Kangaroo Valley horses. You know, so much of it was shot out there, and their horses are so beautiful in the film. It's a real sort of community project. And of course the Wreck Bay, the Yuin people who are just over the hill on the other side of the mountain in Kangaroo Valley, who, you know, obviously it wouldn't have been made without those guys. So it was an absolute joy to be able to do that and to work together and to capture the most incredible beauty and majesty of this place on screen. And then literally, while we're in post, the fire comes through and 90% of what you see on that screen is now gone. It just doesn't exist like that anymore. We've got this archive of an ancient subtropical Australia that, you know, may never be what it was again.
Yeah.
So to see it and to have it like that is something amazing. And the film really, it forced its way into the world. It just couldn't be stopped, and it had to be shot at that time. Everything just was pushing and forcing for that. And I really believe that on a spirit level or a nature level, it was the earth going, let's capture this so people can see what we're losing.
Yeah.
With, you know, the way we're running things on this planet.
Yeah. And it is such a strange feeling too for a filmmaker. I had the same thing happen. I shot my short film in a town that I grew up in Gippsland, and a few days after we finished the short film, Black Saturday bushfires swept through there, and none of what was in my short film was there anymore. It is such a weird feeling going back, and we were still editing at that time as well, so going back and watching it and realizing, oh wow, that building's not there anymore. It was just a really, really strange feeling.
Yeah, it is, and especially when you live here too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so that Papua New Guinea, that's actually how we live, and that no longer exists anymore. So, yeah, it was very poignant, you know, throughout that fire period, going to work on the film and seeing it every day, and also having the devastation around. It was very, very bizarre.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we strive to do with this show is to get Australian cinema out there for people to be able to see. And one of the things I find really interesting about The Flood is there is actually a way that audiences can bring this film to their local cinema. Tell us a little bit about how they can host a screening of The Flood if they would like to.
Yeah, well, I hope people do, because every creative decision in this film was made for the big screen and cinema. And being in 5.1 sound and having the sound wrap around you, the sound design is just so magnificent what those guys did. And the score is incredible. So please see it in a cinema if you can. And a way to do that is we're actually doing some work with FanForce. And that is a platform whereby anyone, anywhere can host a screening at their local cinema. And all you need to do is Google FanForce, go on the website and go to The Flood, and there's a banner that says, I think it says Forces Screening, and click on that and it'll just take you through to a page where you can say where you're at and where you'd like the cinema to screen the film, and it kind of relies on your network to get the word out locally and bring people in, and you can screen it at the cinema and see it how it's meant to be seen.
Definitely. Well, Victoria, once again, I want to say congratulations on such a fantastic film. And is there anything you would like to say to our listeners out there before they check out The Flood, whether it be in cinema or whether it be on disc on January 6th?
Oh, thank you for that, Jenny. I'd like to say that it is a very It's a very full-on and confronting film, and it does look at the truth of our nation's history and colonization, invasion, however you want to term it. Australia has been visited and changed, and there was trauma, and there is trauma still around that. And the film really looks at that. But it also then takes you into another realm of reconciliation and redemption. And I believe it's a parable for race relations and how we can move forward together through just looking at the truth, owning the truth, and being with each other. And the unity in that, the unification in that is what we need as a nation. And it will just take us so far as a country with that level of heart. And you know, that's there. So hang in through the darkness, because that's the light that it's taking us towards. And I really hope that somehow, in some way, that you know, contributes to that happening for our country.
Definitely. Well, Victoria, thank you so much for chatting to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we cannot wait to see what you do next with your next film project.
Well, fingers crossed I get to do one next. That would be fantastic.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Bye.
Not a problem. Bye.